Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for stage 18 of the Giro d'Italia. We have a transition stage today from Morbegno to Cesano Maderno. It's been a siesta. I just woke up from siesta, a little bit of indigestion. Benji's laughing at me. Few riders had a siesta today. Most of the peloton, in fact, had a siesta. That's the sort of stage we had. We said absolutely nailed on sprint today. No breakaway. Alpecin and Visma, they want to sprint too badly. And that's not what we got today. 144 Ks. We have some medium mount like hills in the middle. They're not that hard. 7.5 Ks at 6%, and then 9 Ks at 4.5%. That one crest like 70 Ks from the finish. And yeah, as I said, Groves, Coy, they're here. They've been battling through some brutal mountains without too many sprints. We thought they might be, would their teams lock it down? But before the stage started, Benji, we had big beasting news.
Yeah, beasting. But by the way, I want to turn it back for a second. Yes, we said it's a sprint, but on a technicality here, did we specify where in the sprint would be? Hey, technically.
At what point is it it's not a breakaway anymore, and it's all the sprinters with their leadouts go ahead to contest the sprint and leave the GC guys behind?
I saw an intermediate sprint. I'm sorry. That's a sprint. But on to the topic that you were initiating here. Juan Ayuso, we got to talk about him. Obviously, hasn't had the best last couple of days, but it became quite a bit worse yesterday. Apparently, a wasp or a bee, one of the two, got stuck in his helmet and started stinging the man multiple times yesterday. I'm guessing during the stage, based on the reports. Otherwise, I'm not sure at what point during the day he would be wearing another cycling helmet. Nonetheless, it led to the side of his face basically being quite swollen, his eye being quite swollen. From the pictures that we saw, I think Danielle Friebe posted it on Twitter as well. His one eye was completely closed. And I was wondering, okay, can the guy actually see right now with one of his eyes? Because that takes quite a bit of your vision away. Like, it's not just like annoying for him, but it's also safety towards others, right?
Well, yeah, because we saw he was at the back of the peloton, leaving a 2-meter gap to everybody around him. And so clearly he was not having a good time. I feel really bad for Ayuso. I don't see what's Ayuso done wrong this Giro. Nothing. Like, he was the leader. He had a crash on the Stirato, and he now got stung by a bee, and his knee's been no good.
And on top of that, I've seen criticism of people blaming Ayuso for the team of UAE Team Emirates keeping him in GC on, for example, the Stirato stage with UAE riders spacing there. That's a logical moment to do so. But even on the stage, was it the Monte Grappa stage where Del Toro was riding away together with Simon Yates and Carapaz for a second there? That's not Ayuso's fault. That's a team car's decision to do that. You can't blame a rider for the team riding for Ayuso in that moment. I don't see how you can do that. So the selfish Ayuso is completely overblown in my opinion.
Yeah, and like UAE tipped their hand. They clearly thought Ayuso was the best horse to back based on the numbers. They did not believe Del Toro is going to hold up this week. And now they're going to have to hope he does in the next 2 days. But they clearly didn't think it was the best option vis-a-vis the other GC riders. So anyway, breakaway, Ayuso abandons.
Yeah.
He abandons halfway through the stage. He clearly tried to battle through it, and I don't know what will be next for him. It's obviously too soon to the tour, and he won't do the tour. I kind of think he should do the tour.
To be honest, if you look at the way UAE Team Emirates is currently set up, they've got Ayuso coming with Adam Yates by his side as co-leader on paper before this race, as 2 leaders coming to the Giro d'Italia. Then Del Toro steps as well during the race. Then you've got 3 leaders to look at after this Giro in this sense. Then you have the Tour de France with Pogacar, Almeida. Then the Vuelta comes afterwards, where Pogacar on paper is set to be, and Almeida on paper is set to be. And then I'm looking at, okay, is there a spot for Ayuso to do the Tour de France or La Vuelta? Is there bad blood within the team with Ayuso after the Galibier stage last year? I'm not so sure whether that's actually the case in the team. The media brings that up all the time.
Well, no, Almeida sold him.
I actually agree.
Like, Almeida sold him by how he reacted, yeah.
But it's like, In what way? Because there's a lot of people that are gonna be like, "Oh, what are you talking about, Patrick? Come on, come on."
He was sick. Like he pulled. I went back and watched. He pulled on Galivier just as much as Almeida. And the reason Almeida was getting mad was because he was being selfish. He wasn't thinking, I need to do the best job for Pogacar. He was thinking, I don't want to pull for too long because I don't want to get dropped myself. Because he was thinking about his own GC. That's why he was getting mad at Ayuso.
That's true, but it's like they were probably both doing that a little bit. Yes, Ayuso ended up leaving the Tour de France with COVID eventually. But it's such an overblown situation to the point that the guy's getting roasted in every comment section online, and there's no active reason for it in this entire race in this Giro d'Italia, because he's not making the decision of Del Toro can't ride away. It's a team car that makes those decisions. But anyway, what's next is what I wanted to bring up. Like, is UAE coming at a point where they've got too many cooks in the kitchen up to that point? Because Ayuso almost doesn't have a spot in this Tour de France or Vuelta with who's already set up to ride those races.
I think he'll do the Vuelta. I think Pogacar might not do the Vuelta, so then that would open the spot for the Vuelta for him. I think that's what might eventually happen. But you're right, it's only 3 Grand Tours. One of their riders should be the all-out leader in 2 of them, let's say. And 2 of them, Almeida and Ayuso, won't ride with each other. That's tough to do the scheduling for the Grand Tours, especially now with Del Toro. He steps up into that tier of rider. Anyway, back to this stage. It looked like initially like just the wildcard teams were getting the break, and then all of a sudden Trek start jumping, and once Trek show that what they want from the stage, which is to go on the break, all hell breaks loose. And we got a huge group of 30 riders. Alpecin closed it down initially. I didn't know if there's any GC guys in there. We couldn't tell, but it had everybody in it. Van Aert, Affini, Pedersen, Vacek, everybody in it. Shut down. Same pretty much style of group goes again. With miraculously, the closest rider on GC is 1 hour back in this group. So it's the perfect group. Everybody's got multiple guys. Decathlon got Godon, de Bont, Groves is in there. So Alpecin decide if you can't control the break from the peloton, which they're not going to be able to. Like Visma are not going to put the whole team on the front to control a 30-man break. You can't control a 30-man break, and Alpecin aren't going to do it themselves. They just go in. It's easier to go in it. Groves with Van den Bosch, Planka, Ploymer's in there, Conchi, Scaroni, Ulisi, Pedersen, Vacek, Hola, Engelhardt, De Preto, Van Baarle, Van Aert, Affini got dropped on the first climb, Catania, Edmondson, Dens makes it very, very late for Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe, Bussato, Baroneccio, Rocha, Zambanini, Oldani, Vera, and that'll do. Maestri.
Can I be honest? I feel like the 3rd week breakaway has become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. As in, on one end, the logic is that riders are more tired into the 3rd week, so domestiques are more tired, so there's a larger chance for a breakaway to potentially go to the finish line on a stage like this in between 4 mountain stages. But on the other hand, this also brings that idea to sprinter teams, who then also react in a similar fashion and think, okay, a lot of teams will be thinking like that, so a lot of teams will be trying to get in the breakaway, and therefore maybe we should try to go in the breakaway to counter the fact that we don't have to control in the peloton, and we still have a chance in the breakaway. And this is a whole self-fulfilling circle within the peloton that leads to basically every single team wanting to be in the breakaway. Because even the sprinters teams will do so eventually.
Exactly, like when Vacek and jumps in and Van Aert jump in as like a defense for Pedersen and Coy, well then they're like, well, Trek and Visma in the break with 2 of their good guys. This break's going to go. I'm jumping in. It's a signal. And yeah, you're right. Like especially when Alpecin are in, then you know it's breakaway. So yeah, it was different to how we expected. Break forms, Edward Plank outpaced the first climb really, really hard. He drops actually half of this break. So half the domestiques get thinned out in this breakaway. Like they get shelled. UAE set a pretty firm pace. I think they didn't know who was in the break exactly. Like you don't know. When you're in the race and there's a break of 35 riders, they do not tell you exactly who's in the break. You don't know if a Pidcock has slipped in or whoever. You actually don't really know until quite late. They pace that climb really hard at they keep it at 1:15 and then they get word through of who's exactly in the break, and they just completely park it. Turner has a mechanical or some issue. He's out of it. The break's thinned out, and UA let this break out. They're going to let it out to an hour.
Yeah, well, they're going to let it out to an hour. That's not exactly what's going to happen eventually, because we'll get to that. But Patrick's just going to run away, but I'll continue without him, I guess. We have this breakaway, this large breakaway, to the point that we know that this breakaway won't just ride to the finish line and do a 35-rider sprint. That's not what's going to happen. There's too many teams here who are individual riders, who are riders that might not have that sprint, that will want to attack this group eventually, but it actually takes a while for that to happen. Bussato is one of the first riders to really try that. Fuga de la Fuga, breakaway from the breakaway. He gets caught. The next group is like the likes of Osham, Marcellusi, Tarozzi. They try similar stuff. There's lots of riders that try stuff like this, and eventually, the reason that most of these fugas, most of these breakaways from the breakaway are failing is that, first of all, there's still teams with multiple riders that are willing to do the pacing. Alpecin was a team that was very prominent with Plancard, for example, to expand the gap, and especially also in trying to control it afterwards. Little Trek was doing so as well because they have multiple riders and a relatively stronger sprinter. Just in general, too many teams are still willing to control the breakaway a little bit too much, but that eventually runs out. The amount of teams that are willing to do riders that are dared to do that eventually run out, to the point that one of those fugas actually going is extremely likely. It's unavoidable. Let's be honest about it. So how did the eventual successful breakaway from the breakaway form, my friend Patrick?
Well, yeah, did you say the Van Baarle one?
No, that's the one I want you to kick off.
So yeah, there's going to be multiple fugas de la fuga de la fuga de la fuga. It's not just the fuga de la fuga that wins in this sort of stage. It's the fuga de la fuga de la fuga. If you're an aficionado of these stage 18 transition flat stages, there's specialists for these. Dries de Bont's actually one of them. Campenas won this one last year in the Tour de France, and Van Aert knows it's not going to a sprint. Pedersen knew as well. Also, Pedersen couldn't be fucked. He's on holiday now. Like, he's letting Hola and Vasek have a go. Caden Groves, he does really want to win. He, as the fastest guy in the group, also knows it's going to be tough to get this to an actual sprint. And we see there's a chicane on the circuit. It narrows, the motorbike slows up, so you get a good slingshot into the motorbike through here. Van Baarle goes, Danola goes with him, Vacek lets it go. Larry Warbass is alive to it on Tudor, and yeah, Van Baarle anticipates, creates a group of, it's pretty much the perfect group. Decathlon are in with De Bont. He actually can back himself in a sprint. Trek are represented with Danola. De Preto's quick for Jayco. Edmondson's a lead-up man. He's reasonably fast for Picnic. Van Baarle, as I said, is in, so Van Aert will block behind. Tudor, with Warbass, I wouldn't pull if I have Rick Plumbers behind, to be honest. Conchi's in for Astana, and then Mali, I think, was in for Bardiani. Dens was not in. Edward Plankart's in for Alpecin. I was really surprised that he pulled. I thought he would sit on the group once they got 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. I thought he would just play passenger and sit on the group. But he actually pulled. He did too much with Groves behind, actually. Dens isn't in. And here, Trek and Visma make a big mistake. Van Aert and Pedersen, they let Nico Dens from right under their nose, when the gap was already 5 to 10 seconds, go across solo, and he's won 2 Giro breaks before on similar stages, ahead of G and Seb Berwick. He's an enemy of the podcast, by the way, Nico Dens. Don't forget.
It all stems from that Giro 2023 stage, because Mr.
Right,
Berwick
Tom Schoens threw it. Okay? He was focusing on closing down Seb Berwick, and I like Seb, don't get me wrong, but it was a flat finish and Seb can't sprint. And Schoens was focused on closing him down for Dens, who dusted him in the sprint. I don't forgive either of them.
Either way, we've got this group formed, 11 riders. I'm not sure if I agree with you. Dens bridging and the others not reacting does bring a very solid breakaway rider to the front. That is another competitor that has won these stages multiple times in the past. On the other hand, those riders, Pedersen, Van Aert, they think to themselves, representation fallacy. We are in the group ahead. If Dens bridges, we just want to block it up so no one else bridges with Dens. That's the logic they have in that moment, is how I feel. So they're thinking the exact opposite way as you are thinking. But it leads to an 11-man group with Dens in it now. And that group instantly gets like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. We've got Group 2 Syndrome in the group behind. From the riders that Abusato that missed it for Intermarché, the individual riders that missed it. They're not going to close it. They're looking at each other to do so. And the teams that are in it aren't going to close it either because, well, they're in it. So that creates that Group 2 Syndrome behind. That group of 11, still a lot of riders. Still a lot of riders where there's going to be multiple riders that think to themselves, I'm sorry, but if I'm Larry Warbass and in my group here, I've got multiple riders that are pretty fast, I'm not going to be able to do it here. And there's quite a few riders that think like that, which means that they're going to try and attack away from this Fuga to form another Fuga la Fuga. And that's the process you were anticipating and mentioning as well. But before we get to those attacks, I want to talk about U36.5 because they start facing in the peloton, Patrick. Why?
So the room, no one knows why. There's no one of relevance in the breakaway. It's not for the stage win. Apparently, the organizers, the rumor is from commentary that the organizers asked them to pace because they're on a circuit here, and they did not want them to get lapped on the circuit. So the peloton on the circuit. So Q36.5 start pacing. And yeah, that's that. Because I actually don't see any other explanation. Anyway, 17Ks to go. We've got these corners, the chicane I mentioned. Nico Dens goes to the front of the group. He accelerates before the section. Maestri or Conchi loses his wheel just before the corner. Dens takes the corner at speed, accelerates. He does get a little moto draft, but you've got to be in it to win it. And you know that is a perk you can get when you are the first mover. You know at this point, unfortunately, that's how it is. And he's gone. Like, Conchi pulls for a bit. No one immediately takes over. Plancart tries to attack into the middle of the gap. And that's all she wrote. 15 seconds. Now, the riders in the group, not Peloton, the Fuga, they were complaining that he got too much drafting from the motorbike. Like he did. They did have a car in front of him at points, which was kind of, that was crazy. I'm not sure. Dens kind of deserved to win. Like he went for it and he deserved to win.
Yes, a car being in front of you, even up to 40 meters, gives 7% drag reduction, according to a study by Wertblocken. Like, that is a lot. That's a lot of drag reduction, even at 40 meters. But at the end of the day, you know that if you're the first rider in the race, that you're solo, you're most likely going to have a motorbike or a car somewhere in front of you. There's a large chance that is the case. That's a part of cycling. Is it a part of cycling that I love? No. But it's been there for a while, and it isn't going to go away in the next week. So if you're a rider in a Fuga de la Fuga and you want to attack away, you're probably going to have a motorbike in front of you afterwards. But you got to be strong enough to make the gap in the first place. Dens was strong enough to make the gap, was smart enough to do so before that corner where maybe he knew he could lose Conchi in that corner. Maybe he was trying to make a split with multiple riders in doing so. Everything's possible here, but it was successful. Yes, he benefited from Maestri not reacting, from Plumcart coming to the front then, not necessarily wanting to close a 30-meter gap instantly, but the gap of Dens expands. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, and he rides off because we create this Group 2 syndrome again. And are we being too harsh on Group 2s that they're doing a Group 2 syndrome? Or should these guys have figured it out, for fuck's sake?
They should, like, when you see Dens with 3-5 seconds, you got to know that's the race. And they all were, like, trying to play coy still, and he's a strong rider. It's, they didn't react quick enough, and that was that. So Dens wins his third Giro d'Italia stage in 3 Giros, which is a good strike rate for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Mirko Maestri second, they lost a minute, so he's second, Plancart third, Mali fourth, Edmondson fifth, De Bont sixth, Danhola 7th, Topreto 8th, Conchi 9th, Borbas 10th. Peloton comes in on 13 minutes 50. Probably the most uneventful stage, to be honest, we've had of this Giro, but for Ayuso's departure. But tomorrow it gets more intense once again. From Biella to Champoluc, the first of 2 brutal mountain stages, stage 19, 166 Ks. We have 5 categorized climbs. The Croce Serra, where the break will form, 11 Ks, 4.5%. A valley of 25 kilometers, and Nicole Zecore, which is the hardest climb of the day, actually, 16 Ks, 7.7%. Category 1. Descent, short valley, 10 Ks. Then the Col Sant Pantaleon, 16.5K, 7% descent, no valley. Red Bull Sprint at the foot of the Col de Joux, which is 15K, 7%, the easiest of the 3 long climbs, before a short descent and then like a sort of 9.5Ks at 5% rolling like medium mountain, and then 5Ks of pedaling descent to the finish, similar to the finish yesterday actually from Le Motte. It's a very, very hard stage, 5,000 meters of climbing, not a lot of steep gradients, particularly in the last half of the stage, but it's attritional, Benji, and these are long climbs. These are longer climbs than we had in yesterday, and these are longer than the stage 16 climbs, significantly longer.
They are. The gradients also aren't like insane either. So it's a combination of both, especially when I'm talking about the last climb then. Secoria is a hard climb. 16K at 7.7%, that's not easy. Pantaleon, 7.2% for 16K, you mentioned it. That's a solidly hard climb. The Col de Joux is maybe the easier of the 3, I would say, but there's just so much climbing in the stage that it's not necessarily the hardness of the climb that will make people suffer. It's the collective consecutive climbing that is ongoing in this stage. There's very little flat segments in this parkour. In total, maybe 25 kilometers. That is not uphill or downhill. It is insane to me that if you count all the kilometers that are uphill up, you've got at least 70 kilometers of uphill road in this entire stage. In a 166 kilometer stage, 5,000 altitude meters are not to be joked with. And that being said, is the last 20 kilometers of the stage a positive thing for Isaac Del Toro?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think so. If he gets through the stage and it's an easy walk in the park, then you would say, based on the previous few stages, that 9K 4% climb with a descent finish, that looks good for him. But you got to get there fresh, and so the question is, can he do that? UAE do have the strongest climbing squad in the race, even with Ayuso and Vine out. They do have, with Yates, Micah, Arrieta, McNulty, they have the strongest climbing group. So I think, is this where EF take over, Benji?
Well, there's a few teams here. On one end, you've got EF, who will want to take time with Carapaz, and they want the Maglia Rosa. They've got 2 days to do it, and they have to get started here already, because you can't just bet on it only happening on Finestre. Although Finestre is a massive climb, the hardest climb in the race, you got to start building it up. And you got to try every opportunity you have. And this is one of those opportunities. So yes, EF will try, in my opinion. Another team that, in my opinion, will try, that might lead to, not necessarily, that might lead to a benefit for Carapaz as well, is what I'm trying to say, is Red Bull Borahantro, who want to get up in GC with Pellizzari. He is currently in 7th position. Bernal has been on the ropes a few times in this Grand Tour, so that's a 20-second gap. If they can put trouble on Bernal, in doing so, they would also put fatigue on the race itself. So we might see that move. Like you said in yesterday's podcast, I don't necessarily expect Ineos to do it. I'm also not 100% sure whether Yates is going to do it. Because Visma Lease Bike on one end, I've got a feeling they'll try and send a few riders in the breakaway again, maybe then see how Yates is feeling towards the end. But actively making the race hard, I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to do that, despite the fact that, based on San Valentino, that's what affects Del Toro, and he's still ahead of Simon Yates. It depends on how much they're looking at Carapaz versus how much they're looking at Del Toro at the moment going into the final 2 days. I know Rubio, Movistar will try to put pressure on Bernal as well. Rubio has been climbing better than Bernal in the last couple of days. So that is a possibility there as well. And I'm also looking at who's going to try and find a way to get in the breakaway, because there's quite a bit of climbing, there's quite a bit of kilometers in this stage. The break will probably go relatively early on the climbs, I would say. And if you then look just outside of the top 10, you've got, what is Tiberi going to do? Is he just going to ride for Caruso, or is he going to go in the breakaway and try and do something there, my friend, Patrick? What as the Caruso lover here, what do you think?
I think Tiberi needs to be chained to Caruso at this point. Caruso held his hand all race. I think that's only fair. I think
too.
Yeah, I think he can go in the breakaway, but it's as a satellite rider, not for the stage. You need to be helping Damiano get 5th. That's how I see it. So I think I think it's going to be tough for the breakaway because there's not much valley. It's not a long stage, 166 k's long. So what am I thinking? You got to be a good climber to win from the break.
Who has the team to make it hard in the peloton?
EF, I guess no, or UAE, but will they be the ones to do it?
UAE won't do it.
Like UAE, the ones to make it hard with their riders. But yeah, will James Shaw, will those guys actually do it?
Will Bahrain do it for Caruso, knowing that a hard race might benefit Caruso?
With descents, yeah. It's warm conditions tomorrow, decent conditions. I think it's going to be GC group, and I'm going another stage win for Del Toro.
Is Bernal going to be happy with the GC position he's in? Or is he going to once again try something crazy with the off chance that it works?
Or, I mean, Bernal...
He's been struggling a bit much, eh?
I think this is the stage where Ineos say it's not up to us anymore. Like, they've tried to make the race. This is up to EF. This is up to those teams. Or I think UA will take control. So yeah, I think it'll be a bit passive, and I think Del Toro will win.
I think Pidcock needs to go in the breakaway.
Yep.
Pigonzoli needs to go in the breakaway. I actually see UAE trying the same play, putting McNulty in the breakaway again.
Oh,
Who knows? Polti might be riding in the peloton.
Polti, yeah, maybe Polti will do it. Okay, who do you think wins?
Who do I think wins this stage? Oh, I would say Carapaz, but I don't see it impossible that the breakaway wins. I'd like to see a Romain Bardet victory. So but the thing is, if we take a look at the next two opportunities for breakaways, and we look at this stage versus Finestre stage, Finestre is 200 kilometers. There you got a major amount of kilometers where the gap to the breakaway can expand in no time. Peloton takes a nature break, breakaway wins that stage. That's the vibe that I see when I look at that parkour as well. But then again, you need a lot of time for Finestre as well for the breakaway, but there's time for that to build up beforehand. Tomorrow, that's a bit less the case unless the peloton parks it on one of the climbs. And that is a possibility. We've seen that before in cycling, but it's maybe less likely. If the breakaway forms completely in the first 11 kilometers, which hasn't happened a lot in this Giro d'Italia and is not necessarily the most likely scenario, then maybe the gap can expand in time, but I find it hard to believe. So I'm saying Carapaz.
Carapaz? Okay. Yeah, if I'm him, I think you want to get rid of Del Toro. I think you want to get rid of Del Toro.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, but you could do it tomorrow. Why wait for Finestre?
Yeah. It's Carapaz. It's a Jaguar de Tulcan.
I gotta say,
every opportunity he gets.
I don't. I wish it was a mountaintop finish, but team that makes team like if it was a mountaintop finish, it might be different. But then it gives Del Toro something. If he's struggling, he can come back. So yeah, I think it's gonna be good. Okay, hope you enjoyed the transition stage today, or maybe you had a siesta like we did.
Is Del Toro still in pink tomorrow night?
Yes.
I think so too. I think he cracks on Del Toro. No, I think Del Toro loses pink on Finestre right now.
Yeah, me too. And I think
what does Luke think?
UAE said that to everybody. The whole way they rode the race with Ayuso. That's what they said.
Luke says, I don't think so.
What does that mean?
No.
He doesn't lose it on Finestre, or he loses it tomorrow?
I think Luke thinks that he's out of.
He loses it tomorrow? It could be.
I say Del Toro is in pink tomorrow by 3 seconds.
Yeah, I think he loses time, but not. Oh, actually, that's not true. I said he won the stage. But can you lose time if you win the stage? No, you can't, right?
Do I need to explain basic cycling to you,
You
buddy?
actually can. You actually can. If Carapaz wins the Red Bull Sprint and Del Toro takes no Red Bull Sprint seconds, and Del Toro wins the stage and Carapaz comes second, then Carapaz will take 2 seconds on Del Toro.
You're right. You won on a technicality, my
Do a
friend.
technicality. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll see you with a recap tomorrow. Ciao, 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 ciao.